Okay, so welcome to Learning Week. Just saying that it sounds kind of reminds me of myself when I was little and I did my little pretend videos. I did this fun thing called Others, and I don't know why I called it that, but there was this theme song, and then I'd have certain people, imaginary people, do things, do their groups, because I was really into being a teacher. So I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to put on events, and then um, it changed, and then there was all the dramatics and all of the screaming and shouting and all of that. So that really took form in the year 2015 because of a certain someone that I happen to know that I didn't really like that much at the time. Um, so then slowly but surely it developed into the seriousness of what it is now. So, um, yeah, because when you're little and when you're a kid, that's really a wonderful time to pretend. Um, so, it's really just take advantage of it, and I think I did that pretty well. Um, so, um, welcome to my learning channel. Um, if you have not yet hit the subscribe button and bell, please do so. Um, if you want any of my future videos and when you see them upload onto this channel. Okay, so um today I'm going to talk about none other than Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I'm filming this video on the 22nd of January and not the 15th of January. And I want to point that out to you because Martin Luther King was born on the 15th of January. He was born as a Capricorn sun. And there's so many layers of astrology. There is your personal chart, your progress chart, and predictions and things going on in your life. I mean, it's just huge. It just boggles the mind. To think about. So, I'm filming this video with the sun in Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of rebellion, revolutions, people coming together, and just people in communities being individual, expressing their individualities, rebelling in a way that won't hurt others, but will lead us into the future. That's what I really talk about on my Aquarius High Road, Low Road. And if you go see that video, I don't say in there it's bad for Aquarians to rebel. I do say that it's bad for Aquarians to rebel if it's like hurting others, if it is if it's negative, if it's gonna harm others, hinder yourself, whatever it may be. That sort of thing. If you're rebelling just for the sake of rebelling instead of, rebelling, for a cause like, the song, to dream the impossible dream, to march into hell for heavenly cause. And so just know that. Just know that that is what I meant in that video. So I bring this up because the time period of Martin Luther King Jr. was a one where, the time that all of these protests took place, the time that all of these Black African Americans had equal rights, was the time when there was so much Aquarius going on. And the song from here, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And it's all about changing humanity. It's that sort of energy. So of course, someone like Martin Luther King would lead people to, stand up for themselves, and, it doesn't matter. We're all different, but we're all the same, but, embrace those differences, but we're all the same. Does not matter what color your skin is, it's just the color of your skin and all of that. I mean, what major difference does it make? So, there's so much going on with that. But so looking at the figure of Martin Luther King Jr. So, way back when, in the Renaissance time period, there was Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, of the Protestant Reformation, who introduced us to the divine spiritual force that God is. That God is not something that you have to live up to please Him. God created you, He loves you. It is an energy, it is a force, that doesn't get mad. And God is, really, really giver, and you don't have to be a certain individual or give indulgences to the church or be a certain group or act in certain ways for Him to, be able to forgive or be happy for you. So, that's what He created. And then Martin Luther King Jr. You add King and then Jr. So, he was born on the 15th of January. Around that time, for the past, 3 years, I have been thinking about Aquarian things. Because, Aquarius season's just, it's around the corner. It's coming to the neighborhood at that time. So, January 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. So, his father was a preacher. He was a minister of a church, and his mom was taught in schools. So they really, really were people that really contributed to the community and educating people. So he grew up in a neighborhood that was very wealthy. It was prosperous for the time, for so many other things that were going on in so many other places. Then it was pretty darn good. Of a good childhood that he had. So MLK, you could abbreviate him in that way. So there's a posterity that goes along with the pastors. So the male side of this family or the father's side of this family were pastors. So you could trace it through the lineage. So the grandfather was a pastor. Then he served time as a pastor. He passed away. His father became a and then so on. So he became the co-pastor at a church. So he was in college at Boston University, and he went to several other colleges as well. However, we're looking at this. So let's just look at this, because I'd like to think that this was the main one. This was the big one. He married a woman, Coretta Scott, who was very gifted in the music department. She really, really had a creative mind. Very creative and a very vivid mind. And she was at the Boston Conservatory of Music. So they got married. They had 2 sons and daughters. And in 1954, Martin Luther King, did actually become pastor of Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. So a member of the NAACP. So national, this organization was in charge of assisting, standing up for, and trying to create justice for African Americans. That was their main mission. So, attaining civil rights. So, he really, the way to protest, the way to get people's attention, the way for people to side with him, go with him, get on his team, for people to support him, and for people to come together all for one cause, and for him to have the fame and attention and all of those things, and improving the situation, was to protest in nonviolent ways. So something happened in Montgomery, Alabama. This was a bus boycott. So there was a bus boycott, and this was after the Brown versus Board of Education created the separate but equal decision that just abolished the slavery. And it was better than that, certainly, but still, things were segregated by race in so many areas, such as schools, like white schools, were wealthier. They were able to attain books, and they had more money, and they could, they had this and that. Bathrooms were segregated. Certain stores, park areas were segregated. I mean, all these types of things. So one day, was a day where this woman, who was very, very tired, she worked a whole day. So she was tired, and she deserved quite a bit for what she did. So basically, she went on the bus, and she was like, okay, this is my opportunity to stand up for myself as another human being. So she sat near, at a certain place in the bus, probably the front of the bus. And so then this white person, this white man came on and, just pushed her to get out of her seat. And so, no, she refused. No, I'm not moving. I'm not moving. And so that ended up costing her jail time and getting arrested. However, what was achieved and what came out of her doing that really was profound, and that really paved the way for so much more. So, um, so Martin Luther King protested using nonviolence, also known as civil disobedience, and he was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi. So I remember learning about him, or rather not learning about him. And I say that because I don't know. But so anyway, just regardless of every experience I've had in my life and all that I have to say about that, Mahatma Gandhi was an Indian figure with the, revolutions of imperialism that were going on at the time, and these people, these Europeans, were stripping away the freedoms of Indians. Of not having access to their own resources in their own country on their own soil. And so this was not right. This was unfair. They were there first. It was their country. Mahatma Gandhi would not let these foreign European people, soldiers, take that away from them. So Mahatma Gandhi organized a march where people from all over came together, and they walked with him and they joined with him, so he wouldn't do anything if it involved violence. So they marched up to the sea, up to the to the shore. And what Mahatma Gandhi did, took his hand in the water, picked up salt, and said, this salt is for all of us. And he had some really big things to say that day. But so that influenced Martin Luther King. So one day when Martin Luther King happened to be signing books, some Saturnian, some racist individual came into this store, wherever he was, and asked, "Are you Martin Luther King Jr., who organized all this bus boycott and all these different things?" And when Martin Luther King Jr. admitted who he was, then it was an immediate attack where this person harmed him physically, attacked him by stabbing him. He survived that, and that was fuel. That was fuel to strengthen his desire to, to change all of this, to protest and to make things equal. So he became even more passionate. He became even more determined. So, examples of nonviolent protests are sit-ins and marches. So sit-ins, people would come into these different places and sit, and they would not lead marches. They would just, you know, march across, and people would try to stop them, and they would just cut through so much. So anyway, Martin Luther became King Jr. becomes an icon. So 1957, he became president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was the organization that he was in charge of that was responsible for all of this change, for righting the wrongs that have been done, and, you know, for really revolutionizing so many things with this. So the SCLC boosted the civil rights movement, protesting using nonviolence. So he traveled different places. He noticed that there was an injustice in this place, a crime done in this place, and so he came and so he righted that. And he wrote 5 books as well. He wrote so much as well. So one protest in Birmingham landed him in jail. So he wrote Letter from Birmingham Jail, which really talked about revolutionizing and injustice and protesting, and really, really became such a famous document that he wrote in so many ways. So he delivered a march on Washington, D.C., which included 250,000 people. So his speech, I Have a Dream speech, well, you know, that was the famous speech. In August, so many people around the world came to Washington, heard his speech, which he talked about, you know, so many famous things. You can go listen to it. Talked about his beliefs and his vision for the future. And he was very passionate. He was incredibly passionate. And he spoke. He projected himself onto so many people in a really wonderful way. So, you know, he projected his voice. So he won the Nobel Peace Prize at 35 years old. He became Man of the Year as well in the year that he gave his I Have a Dream speech. So then, fast forward years later, when he was in Memphis, Tennessee, doing a protest march on the garbage workers and, you know, the situation that was going on, he was looking out the balcony at his hotel room and someone came and assassinated him. So, he quoted from the Constitution, and I'm going to alter this a little bit. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. That all people are created equal. So he used that. He said that when we had the Revolutionary War and throughout all of history, blacks were still overlooked. They were still not equal. They were disrespected and belittled and hurt and, you know, all these negative things. And so now it's finally time where that can be changed. So, there was another march in Selma, Alabama, known as the Selma March, and I think there's a really, really well done movie about it. Millions of people joined in. That gave all African Americans the right to vote. And in 1967, he ran the Poor People's Campaign, which included a massive march on the Capitol. So eventually, Martin Luther King Day became a holiday by Ronald Reagan, who signed a bill on the third Monday of January. This began in the year 1986. So, that's a little bit of information, understanding the really important things of who Martin Luther King was, the bio of his life, and, you know, the more you know, the more you don't know, if you know what I mean. There's always more to learn. You can always go back and learn it, and, you know, it's not about forcing yourself to remember, because it's like, this, then then I want more to learn about. Otherwise, I know it already. Then, you know. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and give this video a like, share it, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell. Goodbye.